In the dead of night, as the fog rolled across San Francisco Bay, a group of Native American activists silently approached Alcatraz Island. Their mission, to reclaim what they believed was rightfully theirs. On November 20th, 1969, these brave souls embarked on a journey that would captivate the nation and spark a movement for indigenous rights that would echo through generations. As the first light of dawn broke over the horizon, 89 Native Americans from various tribes stood proudly on the shores of Alcatraz, declaring it Indian land. Their proclamation was bold and tinged with irony. They offered to buy Alcatraz for $24 in glass beads and red cloth, a pointed reference to the infamous purchase of Manhattan Island centuries earlier. Led by Richard Oakes, a charismatic Mohawk student, and Lenata Ward Jack of the Shoshone-Bannock tribes, the group called themselves Indians of All Tribes, IAT. The occupation quickly gained momentum. What started as a symbolic act transformed into a 19-month stand against centuries of injustice. The protesters established a community on the island, complete with a school, daycare, and even a radio station. They painted slogans on the prison walls, their voices echoing through the abandoned cell blocks that once held America's most notorious criminals. As news of the occupation spread, supporters flocked to the island. The occupiers' ranks swelled, and their message resonated across the country. They demanded the return of out-of-use federal lands to Native peoples, citing the 1868 Fort Laramie Treaty. Their actions forced America to confront its long history of broken promises and mistreatment of indigenous peoples. The public reaction to the Native American occupation of Alcatraz Island underwent a significant transformation over time. Initially, the response was largely sympathetic and supportive, with media coverage portraying the occupiers in a favorable light. The public was intrigued by the event, viewing it as an interesting and even delightful stunt. This positive sentiment was further bolstered by the support of several celebrities, including Jane Fonda, Marlon Brando, and Dick Gregory, who visited the island to show solidarity with the protesters. However, as the occupation continued, public opinion and media portrayal began to shift. The press started to depict the occupiers more negatively, often referring to them as angry Indians and red men. Some media outlets went as far as portraying the protesters as a threat to white society. Coverage became increasingly condescending and derogatory, frequently trivializing or degrading the protesters' efforts. As the occupation wore on, certain media outlets even began reporting on the event from a war correspondent's perspective, framing it as a conflict rather than a peaceful protest. In response to these negative portrayals, the occupiers took proactive steps to communicate their message directly to the public. They established Radio Free Alcatraz, a radio show that featured interviews with island occupants and highlighted the issues they wanted to address. This program provided Native American broadcasters with their first opportunity to reach a national audience and share their perspective on critical issues in Indian affairs. Despite the shifting public opinion, the occupation ultimately succeeded in raising national awareness about issues affecting Native Americans and sparked a new era of Native American activism. However, the occupation was not without its challenges. The Native American occupiers of Alcatraz Island employed various creative methods to access and supply the island during their 19-month occupation. Their primary mode of transportation was by boat, often using small vessels to bypass Coast Guard blockades. They also utilized unconventional routes, such as sneaking through Fisherman's Wharf restaurant kitchens with hidden bay access, and relied on sympathetic boat owners and stealthy canoe deliveries to transport people and supplies. Some supporters, like Ronald Craig of the Monte Cristo yacht, provided crucial assistance in these efforts. Despite their ingenuity, maintaining a steady supply line proved challenging due to government interventions. The authorities implemented Coast Guard blockades, cut off utilities, and declared the island unsafe, threatening legal action against trespassers. These obstacles forced the occupiers to be increasingly resourceful and dependent on public support. They received donations from various sources, including union groups, celebrities, and even bands like Creedence Clearwater Revival, which contributed $15,000 for a boat. This combination of creativity, determination, and public backing allowed the occupiers to sustain their presence on Alcatraz Island for an extended period, despite the numerous challenges they faced. As months passed, conditions on the island deteriorated. The lack of electricity and fresh water took its toll. Internal conflicts arose, and support began to wane. The final blow came on June 11, 1971, when federal marshals forcibly removed the last 15 occupiers from the island. Though the occupation ended, its impact reverberated through history. It sparked more than 200 instances of civil disobedience among Native people and is often called the cradle of the modern Native American civil rights movement. The protest led to significant changes in federal Indian policy, ending the era of tribal termination and ushering in a new age of self-determination. Reasons Native Americans chose Alcatraz Island for their protest. 1. As a former prison, it represented the oppression and confinement of Native peoples. 2. As a subject of the 1868 Fort Laramie Treaty, it allowed Native Americans to reclaim abandoned federal lands. 3. As an island close to San Francisco, it ensured media attention and public awareness. 4. As surplus federal property since 1964, it became a prime target for reclamation. 5. As a place with a history of Native American imprisonment, it added weight to their protest. Alcatraz Island became a tourist destination in the fall of 1973. After serving as a military prison and later a federal penitentiary, Alcatraz was opened to the public as part of the Golden Gate National Recreation Area under the management of the National Park Service. Since then, it has become one of America's most popular national park sites, welcoming more than 1.4 million visitors annually. The occupation of Alcatraz remains a powerful reminder of the ongoing struggle for indigenous rights and the enduring spirit of Native American activism.